Do not avert your gaze. You believe you understand the world's mechanisms. You imagine wealth procures all things. Beatrice Sterling held that conviction. She presumed her opulent jewelry and premium airfare entitled her to demean a mother and her offspring, solely due to their complexion. She shrieked, she expectorated, and she insisted the pilot eject them from the aircraft. However, Beatrice committed a single, grave error. She failed to ascertain the identity of her adversary. The reserved mother was more than a mere traveler. She possessed a government authorization superior to the airline's authority. Upon seeing the insignia, the pilot's complexion paled, signaling the commencement of Beatrice's ordeal. This narrative recounts the journey that transformed all. The atmosphere within the premium cabin of Flight 402, en route from Dallas International to London Heathrow, carried the aroma of fine leather, reprocessed air, and the unmistakable, sharp fragrance of inherited wealth. This environment was crafted for tranquility, for the delicate sound of crystalware, and for global leaders to disregard ordinary inhabitants. Beatrice Sterling straightened the lapel of her cashmere jacket, her gaze sweeping the compartment with the keen, hunting focus of a raptor seeking prey. She didn't simply board an aircraft, she made an entrance. At age 52, Beatrice was the surviving spouse of a property magnate, a woman whose moniker adorned hospital sections and library domes throughout Virginia. Her sense of entitlement was worn like an impenetrable, gleaming suit of armor. Beatrice snapped, not bothering to glance at the flight attendant whose name tag she had committed to memory, solely to lodge a complaint later if the service proved less than impeccable. My beverage before takeoff, it should be cooled to 40 degrees. This tastes like ordinary tap water. Sarah Jenkins, the senior cabin crew member for the first-class section, managed a grin that failed to convey genuine warmth. She had served with Delta Airlines for a decade and a half. She recognized a Beatrice Sterling instantly. "My apologies, Mrs. Sterling. Allow me to inspect the cooling unit's configuration for you without delay." Beatrice gestured with a dismissive wave, her perfectly groomed fingernails reflecting the overhead LED illumination. "Simply rectify it. I'm experiencing a headache, and I haven't even taken my seat." She rotated towards Seat 2A, her assigned dominion for the subsequent 7 hours. It was a window position providing the solitude she desired, but as she swiveled, her gourd purse swaying at her side, she halted abruptly in the passageway. Her mouth dropped open a fraction, the sinews in her throat tensing like metallic wires. Occupying Seat 2B, the aisle position immediately adjacent to hers, sat a female. She was African American, possibly in her early 30s, dressed in an unassuming, plain gray hooded sweatshirt and dark tactical trousers. Her hair was gathered tightly into a severe, functional bun. A small child, approximately 4 years of age, sat on her lap. Clutching a well-loved plush dinosaur, the youngster was deeply slumbering, his head nestled against the woman's bosom. They bore no resemblance to the patrons Beatrice typically encountered in the aircraft's forward section. By Beatrice's judgment, they appeared to belong closer to the lavatories in row 48. The female in 2B was gazing at a digital tablet, navigating what seemed to be intricate cartographic displays. She did not raise her eyes upon Beatrice's arrival. She failed to recognize the presence of the prominent Virginia socialite. A loud, sharp throat-clearing sound, like dry twigs breaking, emanated from Beatrice. The other woman remained motionless. "Excuse me," Beatrice uttered, her tone lowering and losing its refined quality, exposing the underlying sharpness of her annoyance. The passenger in Seat 2B eventually raised her gaze. Her dark eyes appeared serene and unsettlingly composed. "Indeed, you are in my row," Beatrice declared, as though this simple statement ought to make the woman disappear instantly. "That's correct," the woman responded, her voice even and soft. She gently adjusted the slumbering child, shielding his head from the motion. "I think your seat is 2A, by the window." Beatrice fixed her gaze on the woman, astonished by her impudence. The issue wasn't solely the woman's race, it was her complete absence of deference. Beatrice typically encountered fear, or at minimum, uneasy respect. This woman regarded Beatrice with the same indifference a lion shows a bothersome fly. "I believe an error has occurred," Beatrice announced. turning towards the aisle where Sarah was returning with a new glass of champagne. "Sarah, a word." Sarah quickly made her way over, sensing the change in the atmosphere. "Is everything satisfactory, Mrs. Sterling?" "Hardly," Beatrice whispered sharply, leaning closer so her costly Chanel No. 5 fragrance, now tinged with something more acrid, enveloped the attendant. "Why is this individual in first class, and why is she seated beside me?" Sarah blinked, bewildered. She consulted the passenger list on her portable device. "That is Miss Jordan Banks, Mrs. Sterling. Her ticket is for seat to be." "Is there an issue with the seat itself?" "The issue," Beatrice declared, her voice now escalating and capturing the notice of a businessman in the third row, "is that I spent $7,000 on this ticket to guarantee a particular ambience. I did not pay to be seated beside a hooded teenager and her noisy child." The aircraft cabin fell silent. The gentle jazz music broadcast through the PA system abruptly felt overwhelmingly loud. Jordan Banks, the woman, deliberately set her tablet onto the tray table. She didn't appear enraged. Rather, she seemed exhausted. "My son is not yelling, madam. He is sleeping, and I recommend you reduce your volume before disturbing him." Beatrice's complexion turned a profound, blotchy crimson. "How dare you instruct me? Do you comprehend my standing? My spouse's company constructed this very terminal where we are currently docked." She then faced Sarah again, gesturing with a trembling finger towards Jordan. "Relocate them immediately. Place them in economy class, which is their proper place. I will not remain seated here." Sarah, the cabin crew member, inhaled deeply. She had experience with challenging passengers, yet this situation was rapidly intensifying. "Mrs. Sterling, the aircraft is completely reserved. I am unable to relocate passengers who have purchased their tickets. Miss Banks is fully entitled to be here. She has paid for her seat." Beatrice emitted a harsh, shrill laugh. "Oh, darling, just observe her. She certainly didn't purchase that ticket. It's likely an employee benefit or some diversity program. The airline is promoting to appear forward-thinking. I hold platinum medallion status. I insist you relocate her, or I will ensure your employment is terminated." Jordan Banks remained absolutely motionless. Her hand lay softly on the rear of her son's head, caressing his hair. Her gaze, nevertheless, was fixed intently on Beatrice. No apprehension was visible in them. Instead, there was a deliberate assessment. She was evaluating a potential danger. "Madam," Jordan stated, her voice piercing the strained atmosphere like a sharp blade, "I am requesting you one time, return to your seat. We are scheduled for departure in 10 minutes. "I absolutely will not," Beatrice shrieked, striking her hand against the overhead compartment. "I refuse to sit beside you. I demand the captain. Bring me the pilot immediately." Beatrice's hand striking the overhead compartment's plastic resonated like a firearm discharge. Within the cramped area, Arthur Pendleton, a businessman seated in the third row, put down his newspaper. He appeared uneasy, fidgeting in his chair, yet remained silent. Such was the custom in first class. No one wished to intervene. All they desired was their whiskey and tranquility. Sarah, the flight attendant, was shaking a little. This incident constituted a level to disruption. Based on her instruction, it was quickly nearing level 3. "Mrs. Sterling, if you would, kindly reduce your volume. You're bothering fellow travelers and holding up the departure." "I am the one experiencing disturbance," Beatrice screamed. Rational thought had abandoned her. Jordan's composed manner had wounded her pride, and victory was now her sole objective. She yearned to witness this individual's degradation. "I insist this female be removed from the aircraft. She's obviously a safety hazard. Observe her attire, examine that luggage." She indicated a robust, dark duffel bag pushed beneath the seat before Jordan. Jordan showed no reaction. "That item is my hand luggage. It's stowed beneath the seat in compliance with rules." "It appears questionable," Beatrice shouted. "What assurance do we have regarding its contents? Narcotics, armaments?" "I'm certain of it. She's a courier, exploiting the child as a disguise." The charge lingered, repulsive and burdensome. Jordan's countenance changed. Her apathy vanished, succeeded by a frigid, unyielding resolve. She deliberately released her seat belt. Sarah advanced, her hands raised. Ms. Banks, kindly remain in your seat. I'm merely creating space, Jordan stated placidly, despite her tone becoming noticeably cooler. Given this woman's apparent apprehension regarding my luggage, I request the pilot. Beatrice pivoted and started striding towards the flight deck entrance. Captain. The flight deck door, reinforced, bullet-resistant, and secured, allowed the disturbance to be sufficiently audible. Consequently, the intercom at Sarah's post vibrated. The call originated from the cockpit. Sarah took hold of the handset. Indeed, Captain. Yes, I am aware. No, she's insisting on conversing with you. Yes, it is Rachel. Sir, she's refusing to sit beside Toby. Yes, I've already attempted that. All right. Sarah ended the call and observed Beatrice, who now stood with her arms folded, breathing deeply. Her chest rose and fell beneath the cashmere. The captain is emerging, Sarah stated softly. Please, Mrs. Sterling, step back. A moment later, the cockpit door opened with a soft hiss. Captain Thomas Sully Sullivan exited. He was a 60-year-old man with silver hair and a rugged face that instilled confidence. He had piloted Air Force transports during the Gulf War before transitioning to commercial aviation. He had absolutely no tolerance for foolishness. He adjusted his cap and looked at Beatrice, then at Jordan, then back to Beatrice. What is the issue here? Sully inquired, his voice a deep baritone that commanded silence. Thank heavens, Beatrice exclaimed, stepping into his personal space. Captain, I am Beatrice Sterling. I'm certain you've heard of my late husband, Edgar Sterling. I am a priority traveler. I am aware of your identity, Mrs. Sterling, Sully stated, his expression unreadable. Your name is listed on the manifest. What's the matter? She extended a long, accusing finger toward Jordan, who had resumed looking at her tablet. Is that individual a passenger? She doesn't belong here. She's hostile, impolite, and frankly, she appears dangerous. I decline to sit next to her. I demand her removal for my personal safety. Sully's gaze fell upon Jordan. He perceived a mother with a slumbering child. He noticed her tactical trousers and the efficiency of her movements. He furrowed his brow slightly, attempting to identify her demeanor. It resonated with experiences from his time in the military. Has she made any threats toward you? Sully inquired of Beatrice. Her mere presence constitutes a threat, Beatrice scoffed. And her odor? She reeks of inexpensive soap. This was an untruth, a trivial fabrication. Jordan carried no scent beyond that of purified air. Sully let out a breath. Mrs. Sterling, if the passenger has not issued a threat, I am unable to remove her. Should you prefer not to sit there, I can ask Sarah to locate an economy seat for you. Beatrice's eyes widened in disbelief. Economy? For me? Have you lost your mind? I purchased a first-class ticket. Relocate her. Send her to the rear. She also paid for first class, ma'am, Sully responded, his forbearance diminishing. I highly doubt it, Beatrice retorted. Beatrice smirked. She drew nearer to the captain, dropping her voice to a secretive murmur. Listen, Captain, we both comprehend how things operate. You wouldn't want a grievance from the Sterling estate appearing on your file. Simply dispose of her. Invent a pretext. Claim the aircraft is over its weight limit. State she's inebriated. I don't care, just remove her from my presence. Sully's posture became rigid. His moral principles were being challenged, and he was being prompted to engage in prejudice. He began to speak, intending to instruct Beatrice to disembark, but before he uttered a word, Jordan Banks rose to her feet. Her movements possessed an astonishing grace. She carefully rested the slumbering child's head on a neck pillow, then straightened to her complete stature. She stood tall, almost 6 feet, significantly taller than Beatrice. Captain Jordan, she stated, her voice not boisterous, yet possessing an authority that hushed the entire passenger compartment. My apologies for the hold-up. Her hand went to the rear pocket of her utility trousers. She has a firearm, Beatrice shrieked, ducking behind the man in the third row. She's going for a weapon. Sully's hand automatically moved to the emergency axe kept behind the partition, his armed forces background taking over. Sarah gasped, yet Jordan did not produce a weapon. A compact black leather billfold was produced by her. With a flick of her wrist, She opened it and presented it for the captain's view. The golden emblem reflected the illumination from the overhead compartment. It wasn't a law enforcement insignia, nor was it a county sheriff's star. It was a substantial federal emblem featuring an eagle at its apex. Below it lay a plastic-coated card bearing a holographic band, which Sully instantly recognized from his time on government flight assignments. What she held was a U.S. Secret Service credential booklet, distinguished by a red band across its upper edge. This signified Code Red authorization. Jordan met the captain's gaze squarely. Special Agent Jordan Banks, Protective Services. She stated, "I am conveying a critical asset." She indicated the slumbering child. "And this individual is obstructing a federal undertaking." Beatrice peered from behind the chair, bewildered. An emblem? Anyone can acquire a counterfeit one online. Jordan paid her no mind. Her gaze shifted to Sully. "Captain, I am activating Code 7. This compartment requires immediate securing, and this menace must be neutralized." Sully became motionless. He fixated on the emblem. He understood the implications of Code 7. It signified that the individual possessing that credential held greater authority than the pilot, the carrier, and the FAA collectively at that precise instant. It implied that the nation's security was in jeopardy. Captain Sullivan's complexion lost all its color. He glanced at Beatrice, who stood agape, appearing utterly out of place. "Oh, Sully," she murmured softly. "Code 7 confirmed," Sully declared, standing rigidly. He directed his stern gaze toward Beatrice. "Mrs. Sterling, you have committed an exceedingly serious error." The quiet that descended upon the first-class section of Flight 402 was complete. More than merely an absence of sound, it was a palpable density. A void that extracted the breath from every person there. The gentle drone of the backup power unit, typically imperceptible, now resembled a thundering engine. Captain Thomas Sully Sullivan remained stiffly upright, his gaze, formerly showing the tired endurance of someone merely aiming to finish his workday, now widened with a frightening understanding. He perceived more than just an emblem. He envisioned his whole professional life, his retirement benefits, and possibly his liberty passing before him. He had been a member of the Air Force during Operation Desert Storm. He was well versed in the protocols for safeguarding high-value assets. Moreover, he understood that obstructing an agent operating under a Code 7 directive constituted a federal felony, a transgression that could lead him to a grim interrogation room, facing unsmiling questioners. His eyes fixed on Beatrice Sterling, a woman he had been on the verge of placating, now unequivocally confirmed as a radioactive Code 7 subject. Sully repeated the designation, his voice sounding hollow. Slowly and with clear intent, he turned his back on Beatrice. He then pivoted to confront Jordan Banks, delivering a sharp, military-style salute. This was no mere courtesy. It was an imperative. "Agent Banks, please accept my apologies. I had been uninformed about the circumstances." Jordan did not return the gesture of respect. She merely acknowledged him with a sharp dip of her chin. Her wallet was then slipped back into her tactical trousers. "Captain, we are vulnerable. The security of this transport has been undermined by this woman's attention-seeking behavior." Beatrice, sensing she was being overlooked, emerged from behind Arthur Pendleton's seat. Her countenance was a rigid mask of bewilderment and persistent arrogance. The actual situation she observed simply failed to penetrate the dense shield of her privilege. "What precisely are you doing, Captain?" Beatrice questioned, her voice piercing, but without its former certainty. "Why are you saluting her?" "I already told you, that's a bogus badge. My gardener owns a similar one, inscribed Vegetable Inspector. It signifies nothing. Take her into custody." Sully whirled around. The intensity of his gaze was so hostile that Beatrice instinctively retreated a step. "Mrs. Sterling," Sully stated, his voice quivering with restrained fury, "for your own good, I am instructing you to be silent this instant. Any further utterance from you, unless it is yes, sir, will be deemed direct interference with a federal operation during flight preparations. Do you grasp the gravity of that? It means genuine handcuffs, not the decorative ones you find amusing at your country club." Beatrice's mouth fell open, then quickly shut, as she gasped like a fish pulled from water. But I am Beatrice Sterling. I am entirely indifferent if you are the Queen of England, Sully retorted, his composure slipping for a fleeting moment. Sarah, sit down now. Sarah, the flight attendant, recoiled as if she had been stung. She had been flattened against the galley wall, attempting to make herself inconspicuous. Yes, Captain, we are beginning pushback. Please secure the cabin. And Sarah, he lowered his voice, though in the quiet cabin, every individual heard him. No more alcoholic drinks for Mrs. Sterling, not even a sip. If she so much as catches a whiff of a cork, I expect to be notified. Beatrice appeared aghast. You cannot do that. I paid $7,000. A pre-flight drink is my prerogative. Your rights? Jordan Banks calmly questioned from her seat, having already re-established her protective stance over the sleeping boy. They concluded the moment you endangered the safety of this aircraft and its occupants by attempting to instigate a disturbance. Beatrice cast her gaze about, searching for allies. She looked towards Arthur Pendleton in the third row. Arthur, you're seeing this, aren't you? This misuse of authority. It's reverse discrimination. That's exactly what it is, Arthur. A man whose resolve seemed as pliable as gelatin. Suddenly, the safety card in the seat pocket became remarkably engrossing to him. He did not even glance up. Defeated, disoriented, and simmering with a fury now blended with genuine apprehension, Beatrice snatched her Goyard bag from the floor and collapsed into seat 2A. With sharp, forceful clicks, she secured her seatbelt. Jordan Banks occupied the adjacent seat. Beatrice found Jordan's closeness intolerable. She pushed herself against the aircraft's interior wall, maximizing her distance from Jordan, as though Jordan were afflicted with a communicable illness. Her gaze fixed forward. Beatrice's jaw was so tightly set that her teeth throbbed. Jordan, meanwhile, did not even glance in her direction. Jordan had returned to her digital tablet. However, had Beatrice observed more carefully, she would have realized Jordan was no longer examining maps. A message was being composed by her within a highly secure communication application. The subject line read, Flight 402. The status indicated, compromised, civilian interference detected. Level for hostile located in seat 2A. Asset secure team requested upon arrival at Heathrow. She then transmitted the message. It vanished, leaving no digital footprint on the gadget. The aircraft jolted as the tow vehicle commenced pushing it from the boarding gate. Simultaneously, the safety briefing commenced on the cabin monitors. Beatrice remained seated, seething with anger, her entire perspective disrupted. She was unaccustomed to defeat, and certainly not to a pilot's refusal, much less a threat from one. She cast an angry look at Jordan's side profile. A fraud, she mused with resentment. She must be an imposter. Sully, on the other hand, is simply spineless. He's trying to avoid a lawsuit from some civil rights organization. I'll make them regret this. Upon our arrival in London, I'll place several phone calls. I have connections with senators. I'm acquainted with individuals who manage the FAA. Within 24 hours, that pilot will be transporting freight from Anchorage, and this woman will be incarcerated for falsely representing herself as an officer. Beatrice offered a faint, private smile. Indeed, that's precisely her course of action. She intended to destroy them, a common practice whenever her desires were not met. Her eyes closed as she attempted to unwind, picturing the champagne she was being refused. Adjacent to her, the young boy began to stir. The child awakened, not with a wail, but with an abrupt gasp. He shot upright, his wide, dark eyes rapidly scanning the aircraft cabin in instant alarm. This was the typical response of a youngster who had quickly grasped that the world offered little security. Jordan became instantly vigilant. Her hand shifted from his head to his tiny shoulder, providing a reassuring pressure. It's all right. Leo, she whispered gently. We're aboard the aircraft. We are secure. See, we're in motion. Leo, the boy, gazed through the window. Beyond Beatrice's unyielding posture, he observed the runway passing beneath them. He eased back a little, resting against Jordan. He gazed up at his guardian. Are the bad guys approaching, Jordan? The boy inquired. His voice, small and musical, lacked an American inflection. Instead, it carried a sharp, distinct British pronunciation, blended with the rhythmic flow of West Africa. Beatrice's attention sharpened. Troublemakers, she mused maliciously. Likely drug traffickers. Gang affiliates. They must be fleeing from something. Jordan gently stroked his hair. No, darling. No dangerous individuals. Our presence is unknown. Today, you're simply Leo. Recall our game. Just Leo, off on vacation. The child gave a serious nod. He gripped his well-loved plush dinosaur more firmly. Only Leo. He murmured. His gaze then shifted to Beatrice, who was observing him with clear disapproval. Perceiving her animosity, the boy recoiled into Jordan. Who is that upset woman, Leo? He softly inquired, his words clearly heard in the silent cabin. Beatrice stiffened. I am not upset, you small. Jordan stated. Her voice remained level, yet it was an order, not a plea. Refrain from addressing the asset. Beatrice sneered. The asset? Heavens. You folks consume excessive cinema. He's merely a kid. He is a 4-year-old child, whose existence is presently estimated at around $400 billion. In global commerce pacts, Jordan declared frigidly, and your outbursts are making him a target. Beatrice became motionless. Slowly, she rotated her head to face Jordan. What exactly are you referring to? Jordan exhaled. She understood she ought not to speak. Strict adherence to protocol demanded complete quiet. However, the pilot was aware, the cabin crew was aware, and Beatrice Sterling had to grasp the seriousness of her actions. Before instigating a global crisis during the flight, you wish to learn my identity, Mrs. Sterling, Jordan uttered, lowering her tone solely for Beatrice's hearing. I serve as the principal operative for the Diplomatic Security Service, presently attached to the African Union assignment. The father of this child is Nigeria's recently chosen president. His inauguration occurred 3 days prior, based on a commitment to eradicate corruption and sever connections with specific global illicit groups. Beatrice gazed, her lips parted a little. Those syndicates, Jordan proceeded, her gaze unyielding, have offered a $50 million reward for this boy's capture or death. They are convinced that eliminating the son will shatter the father. We are moving him to a safe haven in London until the danger subsides. We're utilizing a commercial flight because a private aircraft is too readily traceable, too easily targeted. Our intention was to remain unnoticed until you determined your refined sensitivities couldn't tolerate being seated beside us. Beatrice directed her attention back to the child. The inexpensive attire, the well-used plaything, it served as a disguise. You're fabricating this. Beatrice murmured, yet uncertainty tinged her tone. So, what's your reason for disclosing this to me? Because, Jordan replied, inclining her body forward a little. Should you persist in attracting notice to us? Should you keep causing a commotion? You're not merely being a nuisance, Mrs. Sterling. You are actively assisting and encouraging terrorists intent on killing a 4-year-old boy. Furthermore, if any harm befalls him during this journey, due to your actions, I will do more than simply apprehend you. I will ensure your remaining years are spent in a federal maximum security prison. Reflecting on the moment you deemed your prejudice outweighed a child's existence, Beatrice's complexion utterly lost its color. She glanced at the child, Leo, who was observing her with large, guileless eyes. $400 billion, a $50 million reward. For the very first time in her existence, Beatrice Sterling felt insignificant. However, that sensation was fleeting. It couldn't endure. Her ego was excessively strong, and her conviction of her own importance was too deeply rooted. Her apprehension swiftly transformed into a protective refusal to believe. She's fabricating this to intimidate me, Beatrice mused, her heart thumping forcefully in her chest. This is merely a tale, an incredible fabrication intended to make me retreat. The offspring of presidents do not travel on commercial airlines like Delta. As the aircraft taxied onto the runway, its engines ignited with a roar, pushing them firmly into their seats while it gained speed and ascended into the overcast Virginia heavens. Beatrice reached a conclusion. She would not permit herself to be intimidated by this individual and her exaggerated narratives. She resolved to uncover the full truth of the matter. Her intention was to reveal their deceit. No one was going to make Beatrice Sterling appear foolish. 60 minutes into the journey, the fastened seatbelt indicator extinguished. The flight attendants commenced their customary service procedures. The aroma of heated rosemary chicken and freshly baked bread started to permeate the aircraft's interior. Beatrice, meanwhile, had spent the preceding hour seething with resentment. The apprehension Jordan had instilled in her had dissipated. Supplanted by an insistent craving for retribution, she experienced profound humiliation. The captain's respectful nod, the sympathetic looks from the cabin crew, and Arthur Pendleton's refusal to meet her gaze were utterly intolerable. Upon Sarah's arrival with the food trolley, Beatrice remained engrossed in the magazine she was impatiently turning pages of. "Mrs. Sterling, your dinner choices for this evening are rosemary chicken or sea bass," Sarah inquired courteously, despite a slight tremor in her hands as she gripped the serving tongs. "I have no appetite," Beatrice retorted sharply. "Fetch me a vodka martini, extremely dry, with 3 olives, and do it immediately. My head is throbbing unbearably." Sarah paused. "Mrs. Sterling." Captain Sullivan's directives were very clear. No alcoholic beverages are to be served throughout this flight. Beatrice forcefully shut her magazine, causing young Leo to flinch in the adjacent seat. "This is preposterous. It's unlawful confinement. It's torment." Beatrice's voice escalated once more, its piercing quality reappearing. "I insist on having a beverage. I purchased this seat and all its associated services." "I apologize, madam," Sarah stated resolutely, taking a small step back. "I am unable to provide you with alcohol. Would you prefer a sparkling water with a slice of lime?" Beatrice emitted a deep, frustrated growl. "Leave my presence, you utterly incompetent bovine." Sarah promptly proceeded to the subsequent row, her complexion visibly drained. Beatrice then redirected her rage towards the perceived origin of all her difficulties, the individual in the seat ahead. Jordan had just completed portioning Leo's chicken. The ordinary, domestic nature of this sight intensified Beatrice's fury. "Are you content now?" Beatrice spat, leaning over the armrest. "With your trivial fantasy concerning presidents and assassins, you have succeeded in alienating the entire flight crew against me." Jordan maintained her focus on her meal. "You brought that upon yourself, Beatrice. Consume your meal." This curt dismissal was unbearable. Beatrice felt an urgent need to reassert dominance. Evidence was essential. She had to demonstrate to everyone the extent of this woman's deception. Deliberately and discreetly, Beatrice retrieved her iPhone from her purse. Her iPhone 15 Pro Max. She held it discreetly on her lap. The camera's lens was aimed at Jordan and Leo. Beatrice's mind raced with the idea. "I'll capture an image. The moment we touch down, I'll upload it to X. Bogus federal operative accosts grieving woman on Delta aircraft. I'll mention Sean Hannity. I'll mention absolutely everyone. The internet can handle this. We'll discover just how confidential her asset truly is." She then composed the image on the display. The illumination was poor. A flash was necessary. Beatrice touched the display to activate the flash. She paused her breathing and depressed the capture button. A brilliant flash. The sudden white glare was dazzling. Within the dimly lit interior, it illuminated Jordan's countenance, Leo's surprised gaze, and the whole first row. This proved to be the gravest error Beatrice Sterling ever made. Prior to Beatrice's vision adapting to the brightness, even before she could bring her phone down, Jordan reacted. This was no soft motion. It was a sudden burst of dynamic force. Jordan unfastened her seatbelt, rotated, and extended her arm over the armrest. With incredible speed, her tough, calloused hands seized Beatrice's wrist with the crushing power of a hydraulic clamp. Beatrice shrieked in authentic agony. "You're fracturing my arm. Assist me." An assault. Arthur Pendleton, startled, partially stood from his chair. "Hold on, just a moment. Be seated," Jordan commanded him sharply, her tone exuding an authoritative presence that instantly froze him. Using her free hand, Jordan snatched the mobile device from Beatrice's hold. "That belongs to me personally," Beatrice wailed, tears of anguish and fury welling up in her eyes. "Return it, you pilferer." Jordan let go of Beatrice's wrist, dropping it back onto her lap. Jordan lifted the device. Her expression was no longer serene. It was a visage of frightening professional wrath. "You have just captured an image of a safeguarded federal asset within a secure setting. Despite receiving explicit warnings about the risks, Jordan stated, her voice quivering subtly with suppressed aggression, pursuant to the Patriot Act and Title 18 of the United States Code. This gadget now constitutes evidence in an ongoing national security inquiry. You are not permitted to do that, Beatrice wept, tenderly holding her wrist. A bruise was already forming where Jordan's digits had pressed deeply. Observe me, Jordan replied. She elevated the phone. It was secured by facial recognition. Unlock the device, Jordan ordered. Never, Beatrice retorted. To perdition with you. Jordan acted without delay. She grasped Beatrice's chin with one hand, pushing her head back into the headrest. With her other hand, she presented the phone directly to Beatrice's face. The mobile device unlocked. Beatrice shrieked once more, struggling violently in her chair. Remove your hands from me. Jordan paid her no mind. She quickly touched the display and navigated to the picture application. And there it was, the photograph of herself and Leo, vivid and distinct. Jordan removed it, then accessed the recently removed directory and expunged it forever. However, she did not conclude her actions at that point. She retained possession of the phone. I will initiate legal action against you, Beatrice cried out, scanning the aircraft's interior for assistance that failed to materialize. The remaining travelers meticulously observed their onboard entertainment displays, fearful of meeting the gaze of the individual in seat-to-be. I will pursue legal claims against this carrier for every single cent it possesses. You assaulted me, Sarah, Jordan declared loudly. Immediately, the flight attendant materialized, visibly frightened. Jordan commanded, fetch a robust restraint kit and notify the captain of a level 4 threat in Seat 2A. Immediate physical restraint is necessary. Mrs. Sterling will remain in flex cuffs for the duration of this journey. Beatrice's screams abruptly ceased. Beatrice gazed at Jordan, completely incredulous. Restrain me, Beatrice Sterling. You wouldn't have the nerve, she murmured. Jordan simply regarded her, her gaze frigid and devoid of compassion. My duty is to safeguard the life of a future African national leader. Do you truly believe your personal comfort matters to me in the slightest, Beatrice? With Sarah hurrying to retrieve the restraints, Jordan's attention fell upon Beatrice's unlocked phone, still clutched in her grasp. A notification banner scrolled across the display's upper edge. The alert indicated an email originating from Sterling Enterprises, specifically its legal department. The subject line read, Urgent DOJ subpoena concerning offshore accounts and kickback scheme. Jordan's eyebrows rose sharply. A deliberate, chilling smile slowly formed on her countenance. This marked her initial smile since the flight's commencement. It was an unsettling grin. Indeed, 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 she mused. Jordan uttered softly, her gaze shifting from the phone display to Beatrice's tear-stained, frightened expression. It appears, Mrs. Sterling, that the karma you were so apprehensive about has already made its appearance. Moreover, it hadn't even awaited their arrival. The ambience within the first-class section had transformed from merely tense to utterly oppressive. Beatrice Sterling, who had initially boarded the aircraft with an air of royalty, now sat slumped in Seat 2A. Her wrists were securely fastened with robust plastic flex cuffs. Her screams had ceased. The profound shock had effectively silenced her. Sarah, the flight attendant, had provided a blanket to conceal Beatrice's hands. This was a minor act of compassion, intended to shield her humiliation from the other passengers, despite everyone having already witnessed it. Arthur Pendleton, seated in row 3, had requested a double scotch and was now feigning slumber, eager to detach himself from the unfolding spectacle. Jordan Banks occupied Seat 2B, with the slumbering boy, Leo, resting his head upon her lap. To an onlooker, Jordan appeared composed, perhaps engrossed in an e-book on the confiscated iPhone she held. However, in truth, Jordan was meticulously dissecting the entirety of Beatrice Sterling's existence. The email alert concerning the DOJ subpoena served as the initial clue. Jordan pulled at this thread, and the complete fabric of Beatrice's life commenced its unraveling. You know, Jordan uttered gently, her voice just audible above the engine's drone. She avoided Beatrice's gaze, maintaining her focus on the screen. You previously stated that your deceased husband's company, Sterling Construction, Constructed the terminal from which we departed. Correct. Beatrice gazed through the window at the boundless Atlantic Ocean, her face swollen from weeping. She offered no response. Internally, she was cycling through potential courses of action, contacting her legal counsel, reaching out to the senator, and initiating a lawsuit against the airline. She simply had to land. Beatrice, I'm reviewing your emails, Jordan went on, her voice sounding casual yet tinged with threat. It's incredible what individuals store on their mobile devices. There's a directory on your phone named Offshore. That lacks subtlety. Beatrice tensed up. This constitutes confidential data. You're infringing upon my personal space. Your right to privacy was relinquished the moment you committed a felony. By capturing images of a safeguarded asset, Jordan retorted calmly. However, this is quite intriguing. It appears Sterling Construction has been transferring substantial sums of cash. In fact, millions were channeled into front companies located in Lagos and Abuja. Jordan glided her finger across the display, her gaze sharpening. She hesitated. A chill ran through her veins. Within one of the wire transfer PDFs, she spotted a name, Viper Logistics. Jordan recognized that name. Viper Logistics served as a shell corporation for the Boko Haram faction responsible for placing the reward on Leo's life. They were pursuing the child. They were the perpetrators of the presidential palace bombing 3 days prior. Jordan deliberately shifted her gaze towards Beatrice. The revulsion she had experienced earlier paled in comparison to the intense hatred she now harbored. Beatrice, Jordan murmured softly. The forcefulness in her tone caused Beatrice to meet her gaze. Were you aware of what? Beatrice retorted sharply, despite her voice quivering. It's commerce. My spouse conducted transactions worldwide. Everything is lawful. That's not lawful, Jordan stated. Your husband's firm. The funds you're utilizing for these premium tickets, the cash for your Chanel purses, it originates from illicit payments. You're cleaning funds for the exact terrorists attempting to murder this boy. Beatrice's jaw dropped. That's preposterous. You're fabricating the truth. Am I truly? Jordan rotated the device, allowing Beatrice to view the display. It was an electronic mail from an associate called Red Scorpion. The subject field stated, payment acknowledged. The impediment will be eliminated in London. The impediment? Jordan remarked, indicating the slumbering child. That's Leo. Your corporation is financing his murder. Beatrice gazed intently at the display. All pigment vanished from her complexion, rendering it a pallid, unhealthy gray. She was no longer merely an impolite traveler. She was an accomplice in global terrorism. Beatrice faltered. I wasn't aware, as tears once more streamed down her face. Edgar managed the finances. My role was merely signing documents and spending funds. I wasn't aware, she claimed, however. Lack of knowledge offers no excuse when financing a genocide. Jordan stated dispassionately. She then retrieved her phone and began a protected data transfer. All data was being transmitted, each email, every bank record, straight to the Secret Service headquarters in D.C. and Interpol's office in London. You desired to learn our identities, Jordan remarked, drawing nearer. Now you're informed, and I, in turn, understand your true nature. You're more than merely a bigot. Beatrice, you're an exploiter of conflict. Beatrice started breathing rapidly and shallowly. The cabin's confines seemed to shrink around her. The stark understanding of her impending fate in London overwhelmed her. No Ritz awaited her, nor was she bound for a relaxing spa. Please, Beatrice pleaded softly, her former haughtiness utterly broken. Simply erase it. I can offer you funds. My assets are held in Cayman accounts. Seize everything. Only release me. Jordan regarded her with unadulterated disdain. Do you believe you can bribe me? Does your ill-gotten wealth hold any significance in this place? Jordan extended her hand and softly caressed Leo's hair. The child mumbled while asleep, gripping his toy dinosaur. This child, Jordan declared, possesses greater value than your whole life. Yet you aided those who seek to harm him. Jordan activated the armrest button to summon the flight attendant. Sarah materialized immediately. Yes, Agent Banks, instruct the captain to transmit a message to Heathrow in advance. Jordan commanded, her tone even and businesslike. Provide a status update. We require more than merely the diplomatic protection group for the asset. The counterterrorism command is essential. I'm holding a suspect with immediate digital connections to the adversarial entity." Sarah's gaze widened, yet she gave a nod. "Yes, madam." Beatrice wept, letting her head fall onto her chest. The restraints dug into her wrists. The opulence of the premium cabin seemed to taunt her. The bubbly, the fine upholstery, the attentive service, it was merely a pretense, concealing a decay so profound it had ultimately given way. The remainder of the journey was a hazy rush of anxiety. Beatrice remained quiet, tears flowing freely, observing the flight path on the display as the aircraft slowly approached London. Nearing her moment of truth, the approach to London Heathrow lacked the seamless, victorious touchdown Beatrice Sterling had imagined upon reserving her fare months prior. Rather, it resembled a plunge into an abyss. The aircraft vibrated violently as it pierced dense, dark gray clouds covering the metropolis. The choppiness caused the delicate crockery in the kitchen to clatter, and the ice in Arthur Pendleton's drink within the first-class section to jiggle. An overwhelming quiet filled the air. It was a profound, oppressive stillness, interrupted solely by the automated hum of the wing flaps deploying, and the solid clunk of the landing apparatus engaging. Beatrice remained motionless in seat 2A. The plastic restraints on her wrists had started to irritate, digging into her flesh. However, the bodily discomfort paled in comparison to the mental dread that was gradually, systematically eroding her sanity. She gazed through the window, observing the precipitation stream horizontally over the pane. "This is an error," she reassured herself, the affirmation echoing in a desperate cycle. "I am Beatrice Sterling. I am a benefactor. I am a bereaved wife. They are unable to treat me this way. As soon as I reach the concourse, I will contact the envoy. He attended Edgar's memorial service. He will resolve this situation." Yet, the aircraft did not proceed towards the terminal after its wheels hit the damp runway and the through. St. Reversers activated loudly, decelerating the enormous jet. It made an abrupt pivot, veering off the primary taxiways. Beatrice was familiar with the layout. She had traversed it many times. They were proceeding towards the isolated parking areas, the distant sections of the aerodrome, typically designated for freight aircraft, servicing, or safety concerns. "Ladies and gentlemen," Captain Sullivan's voice broke through the public address system. His tone lacked its customary cordiality. It was firm and abrupt. "Welcome to London. Local officials have instructed us to proceed to an isolated parking spot for a compulsory security procedure. Kindly stay seated with your seatbelts secured. Do not, I reiterate, do not try to rise or access the overhead compartments." The aircraft glided to a halt in a deserted part of the runway, enveloped by a gray haze and the scent of aviation fuel. Beatrice pushed her face against the chilly pane, her breathing caught. Beneath them, the damp asphalt was awash in a multitude of blinking blue lights. It resembled a combat zone. A minimum of 10 vehicles were present, armored police carriers, dark unmarked sport utility vehicles bearing diplomatic license plates, and multiple patrol cars from the city police force. Individuals were already converging on the location. These were not the courteous constables Beatrice typically encountered in travel pamphlets. The men were clad in complete tactical equipment, including substantial vests, ballistic headgear, and submachine guns positioned for immediate use. Their chests bore the white inscription CTSFO, signifying Counter-Terrorist Specialist Firearms Officer. Beatrice's voice quivered as she murmured, "They're here for the child." She gazed frantically at Jordan Banks. "I warned you. They've come to apprehend you. You're the culprit. You abducted that boy." This was a desperate, futile effort to alter the truth. Jordan paid her no mind. Calmly releasing her seatbelt, she rose with deliberate, unhurried motions, then gently cradled Leo in her embrace. The small boy was now awake, clutching his dinosaur, observing the outside world with broad, inquisitive eyes. "No, Beatrice," Jordan stated, her tone lowering to a pitch that resonated with absolute certainty. "They haven't come for the asset. They've come for the one who funded it." The front cabin door opened with a soft hiss. A rush of moist, cool London air permeated the warm interior. bringing with it the smell of precipitation and vehicle fumes. The distinct thud of heavy footwear echoed on the metallic steps. Initially, 3 officers came aboard. They were imposing figures, their faces concealed by balaclavas, revealing only their eyes, which appeared cold, scrutinizing, and menacing. Following them were 2 individuals in tailored suits, each equipped with an earpiece. One represented British intelligence, while the other led the U.S. Secret Service detail stationed at the London Embassy. The whole first-class compartment collectively paused. Arthur Pendleton had drawn his jacket over his head, attempting to become inconspicuous. Agent Banks, the American operative, approached Jordan directly, bypassing the tactical officers, and with a respectful nod, inquired, "Status report?" "The asset is safe," Jordan responded, adjusting Leo on her hip. "Physical condition is completely intact. Emotional state is steady. Nevertheless, the transit was jeopardized by an adversarial party," the agent, with a somber expression, affirmed, "We have received the data package you transmitted. The Financial Crimes Division in Washington, D.C. is extremely busy. They have already placed a freeze on the Sterling accounts located in the Caymans and Zurich. It's finished." Beatrice emitted a choked sob. "All accounts frozen?" The British intelligence operative advanced, clutching a clipboard. He avoided Jordan's gaze, his eyes fixed on Situé. "Where is she?" he questioned. Jordan indicated the trembling, huddled woman occupying the window seat, Beatrice Sterling. "The subject is subdued and not resisting," the officer communicated to the tactical unit. 2 of the heavily armored officers proceeded down the passageway to apprehend her. The area was confined, causing their equipment to brush against the leather seating. They halted at the 2nd row, where Beatrice Sterling was located. The commanding officer declared loudly, his voice somewhat muted by his mask yet resonating with power, "I am placing you under arrest, pursuant to Section 41 of the Terrorism Act 2000 for engaging in, preparing for, and inciting terrorist activities, particularly the financial support of designated groups." Beatrice raised her gaze, black streaks of mascara tracing down her face. "Terrorism, impossible. I am a socialite. I am a charitable donor. I merely desired a beverage. I simply wished for her to change seats. Rise," the officer commanded. "I am unable," she cried out, presenting her restrained wrists. "Assist me. Will someone please help me?" The officer extended his arm, seized her bicep, and effortlessly pulled her upright. Beatrice faltered, her costly high heels snagging on the floor covering. The officer quickly stated the warning, "You are not obliged to speak, but your defense could be prejudiced if you fail to disclose during questioning anything you later intend to use in court. Any statements you make may be used as evidence." "Arthur," Beatrice shrieked, contorting her body to face the individual in the 3rd row. "Arthur, inform them, explain to them my identity, assure them I am a virtuous individual." Arthur Pendleton raised his gaze. He observed the submachine guns. He noticed the insignia on Jordan's belt. He perceived the absolute, unmistakable culpability evident in Beatrice's demeanor. "I do not know her," Arthur stated, his voice trembling. "I have never encountered this woman before." Beatrice gasped, as if struck. "You craven. You pathetic weakling. Proceed," the officer commanded, pushing her towards the exit. Beatrice was led through the aircraft's interior, every gaze fixed upon her, not with the admiration or jealousy she always desired, but with revulsion. Passing the kitchen area, she spotted Sarah, the flight attendant she had harassed for 7 hours. "Sarah," Beatrice pleaded, "please inform them I was merely under pressure. Explain that I didn't intend it." Sarah gazed at Beatrice. She recalled the bigoted remarks, the incessant requests, and the young boy Beatrice had attempted to have removed from the flight. Sarah deliberately lifted the water bottle Beatrice had requested previously. She drank from it. "Enjoy your journey, Mrs. Sterling," Sarah uttered frigidly. The officers pulled Beatrice towards the exit. The breeze lashed her hair across her countenance. She peered down the steps at the armored vehicle awaiting her. It resembled a confinement cell. "No, no, no," she wailed, her limbs failing. The officers were compelled to transport her the remaining distance, her feet scraping against the metallic stairs. All dignity had vanished, all elegance gone. leaving only a shattered woman handled like freight. As they forced her into the rear of the vehicle, she cast one final glance upwards, seeing Jordan standing at the stairs' summit, framed by the aircraft's body. Jordan's gaze wasn't fixed on Beatrice. Instead, she was observing Leo. She gestured towards the procession of dark limousines parked on the opposite side of the runway. The presidential convoy. "Observe, Leo," Jordan uttered, her tone tender and soft. "Your carriage is ready." "Is my father present?" Leo inquired, his voice brimming with optimism. "He is expecting you at this very moment," Jordan assured. Jordan started to descend the steps. Her gait was not that of a captive. Rather, she moved like a victorious combatant. Upon reaching the base, the security personnel unlatched the door of the foremost limousine. The interior was warm, exuding sense of leather and security. Beatrice observed from the frigid, unyielding seat of the police vehicle as the substantial doors were forcefully closed, engulfing her in gloom. Her final sight was Jordan Banks assisting the child into the automobile. Secure, cherished, and safeguarded, the police van's engine burst into activity. Beatrice remained solitary in the shadows, the sirens commencing their mournful cry, a piercing shriek that heralded the conclusion of her existence as she understood it. No bond would be granted, no agreement would be negotiated. The proof Jordan had transmitted was undeniable. Beatrice Sterling would pass the remainder of her days incarcerated, recalling the instant she chose to deny a mother and child a place to sit. Within the luxury car, Jordan secured Leo with the seatbelt. She retrieved her mobile device and composed a concluding dispatch for her operations hub. Operational summary: target Beatrice Sterling. Condition: rendered inoperative. Valuable item conveyed. Remark: retribution is unforgiving, and she travels with Delta. Jordan grinned, shut her eyelids, and at last, after 7 hours, permitted herself to unwind. As the procession accelerated into the London fog, and thus, Beatrice Sterling assimilated the most challenging instruction of her existence. Never evaluate an individual solely by appearance, and never presume oneself to be the most influential presence in any setting. Her hubris not only deprived her of a journey, it exposed an illicit organization and forfeited her liberty. At 35,000 feet, justice was delivered with unyielding severity. If you found this tale of swift karma and fairness enjoyable, please hit the like button. Your engagement significantly contributes to the channel's expansion. Remember to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any future narratives. Had you been in the captain's position, what would your actions have been? Share your insights in the comments section below. Thank you for your viewership, and I look forward to connecting with you in the upcoming video.